The whisper came from under my bed. I'm still here. I was wide awake when I heard it. My room was dark. The clock said 3:07 a.m. The air felt cold, even though it was summer in Ohio. I was not dreaming. I was not half asleep. And then my closet door slowly opened by itself. That was the night everything changed. That was the night I realized the 13 chilling true scary stories were not just stories anymore. They were happening to me. And I still don't know what would have happened if I had looked under the bed. But to understand why I never sleep the same again, you need to know how it all started. It began 3 weeks earlier. My name is Daniel. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Cleveland. Nothing ever happens here. Just trees, houses, and friendly neighbors who wave when you walk by. My life was normal. School, homework, video games, dinner with my parents. Nothing strange. Until I found the old recorder. It was in the attic. One Saturday afternoon, my mom asked me to help clean out boxes. The attic smelled dusty and old. Sunlight came in through a tiny window. I found a small black recorder inside a cardboard box. It looked like something from the 1990s. There was a label on it. Horrormix Volume 113. I thought it was just some old Halloween tape. I pressed play. The first voice on the recording was shaky. If you're listening to this, you need to know these are true stories. 13 of them. And if you finish them, they might follow you. I laughed. It sounded fake. Like something from a scary podcast. I kept listening. The first story was about a girl named Emily from Chicago. She said she kept hearing someone knocking on her apartment door every night at exactly 2:22 a.m. When she checked the peephole, no one was there. One night, she looked down instead of straight ahead. There was an eye staring back at her from the bottom crack of the door. I felt chills, but I kept listening. The second story was about a truck driver in Texas who picked up a hitchhiker on a lonely highway. The hitchhiker never spoke. When the truck driver looked in the rearview mirror, the seat was empty. But the back door was still locked. I told myself it was just made-up stuff. The third story was about a babysitter in Florida who kept getting calls from inside the house. That one made me pause. The voice on the recorder sounded too real. Not like acting. Like someone remembering something they didn't want to remember. I turned it off. That night, I had trouble sleeping. That was story 1, 2, and 3. I told myself it was just my imagination. The next day, I listened again. Story 4 was about a boy in New York who kept seeing a tall shadow outside his bedroom window. Every night it got closer. Story 5 was about a camping trip in Colorado where someone heard footsteps circling their tent, but there were no footprints in the morning. Story 6 was about a security guard in California who watched the same woman walk into the building every night on camera, but no one was there in real life. My stomach felt tight. The attic suddenly felt colder. But I didn't stop. Story 7 was about a teacher in Arizona who heard someone calling her name from the empty hallway after school. Story 8 was about a man in Oregon who found muddy footprints inside his house, even though it hadn't rained. Story 9 was about a college student in Michigan who kept getting text messages from his own number. I turned the recorder off again. I told my friend Jason about it at school. He laughed. It's just a creepy tape. Probably fake. Yeah, I said. But that night, something strange happened. At exactly 2:22 a.m. I woke up. Knock. 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 3 soft knocks. I froze. The sound came from my bedroom door. My parents were asleep. I could hear the TV downstairs was off. The house was quiet. Mom? I whispered. No answer. I got out of bed slowly and opened my door. The hallway was empty. Just like story 1. My heart beat fast. I told myself it was the house settling. Old would make sounds. The next day, I listened to story 10. It was about a boy who heard knocking after listening to the same tape. I stopped breathing. The voice on the recorder said, "The stories don't just scare you. They watch you." I shut it off. But I still had 3 stories left. Story 11. Story 12. Story 13. I didn't want to listen anymore. But something inside me felt like I had to. That night, I dreamed about the eye under the door. The next morning, I woke up with muddy footprints outside my bedroom. They led to my closet. I felt sick. I asked my parents if anyone came into my room. They said no. I didn't tell them about the recorder. That afternoon, I went back to the attic. I wanted to throw it away. But when I opened the box, it was gone. I searched everywhere. Nothing. That night, at 3:07 a.m., I woke up again. My closet door was closed. I stared at it. Slowly, it creaked open. Just a little. Then I heard breathing. Soft. Slow. From under my bed. "I'm still here," the whisper said. That was story 11. But I never listened to it. Because it was happening to me. My heart felt like it would explode. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the darkness under my bed. The breathing got louder. Then silence. I jumped out of bed and ran to turn on the light. Nothing was there. No one. Just my room. But on my desk, the recorder was sitting there. I hadn't put it there. It was playing. Story 12 had started. And the voice said something that made my blood run cold. "It only ends when you finish all 13. The tape clicked. And began story 13. The final story. And the voice on it sounded exactly like mine. "My name is Daniel," the voice on story 13 said. It was my voice. Not close to mine. Exactly mine. Same tone. Same breathing. Same way I say my name when I am nervous. I couldn't move. The recorder was sitting on my desk, playing by itself. I did not press anything. I did not touch it. The voice continued. "I found the tape in my attic. It was called Horrormix Volume 113. My stomach dropped. It was telling my story. Everything I had done. Everything I had listened to. "This is story 13, my voice said from the recorder. "If you are hearing this, it means you finished the others." The light in my room flickered. I wanted to unplug the recorder, but my legs felt frozen. "Do not look under the bed," the voice whispered. The breathing started again. Slow. Right below me. I jumped back onto my bed and pressed myself against the wall. My heart was beating so loud I thought it would burst. The recorder kept playing. "He didn't listen," my voice said. The breathing grew louder. Then, silence. The recorder clicked off. The light stopped flickering. Everything was still. I stayed awake until morning. When the sun came up, I finally got the courage to look under my bed. There was nothing there. But carved into the wooden floor was something new. 13 tally marks. I didn't carve them. I swear I didn't. I tried to tell myself it was a prank. Maybe Jason broke into my house. Maybe I was sleepwalking. But deep down, I knew the truth. The stories were real. And they were not finished. That day at school, I could not focus. Every small sound made me jump. When someone tapped my shoulder, I almost screamed. Jason noticed. "You look terrible," he said. "I didn't sleep. You still thinking about that tape?" I nodded. "I heard knocking last night." He laughed again, but it sounded weaker this time. "You're freaking yourself out." Maybe he was right. Maybe I just needed to stop thinking about it. When I got home, the house was empty. My parents were at work. I went straight to my room. The recorder was gone. My desk was clean. Like nothing had happened. I checked under my bed. The tally marks were still there. 13 lines scratched deep into the wood. I touched them. They were fresh. That evening, I decided to do something brave. I went back to the attic. If the recorder was connected to the house, maybe I could find where it came from. The attic felt colder than before. The air was heavy. I searched every box, every corner. Then I saw something new. A small door behind the old shelves. I had never seen it before. It was tiny, almost hidden by dust and spider webs. My hands shook as I pulled it open. Behind it was a narrow space. And inside that space were more recorders. Not just one. Dozens. All labeled the same. Horrormix. Different numbers. Volume 101. Volume 105. Volume 112. And one empty space. Volume 113 was missing. My knees felt weak. This wasn't just my story. How many people had listened to these? How many had reached story 13? I grabbed one of the older tapes. Volume 105. I pressed play. The voice sounded scared. I finished the tape, a man said. Now it won't leave me alone. The audio cut out suddenly. Static filled the attic. Then, from behind me, I heard a floorboard creak. I turned around slowly. No one was there. But the small attic window was open. It had been closed before. Cold wind blew in. And with it, a whisper. Keep listening. I slammed the tape off. I didn't want to hear more. But the other recorders started clicking. One by one. Like someone was pressing play on all of them at once. Voices filled the attic. Different people. Different states. Different stories. Knocking. Footsteps. Breathing. Whispers. All at the same time. I covered my ears and ran downstairs. The front door was locked. The windows were shut. I was alone. Or at least I thought I was. That night, I refused to sleep in my room. I stayed on the couch downstairs with all the lights on. At 2:22 a.m., the TV turned on by itself. Static filled the screen. Then a number appeared. The volume turned up. The screen went black. And I saw my reflection. But it wasn't moving the same way I was. I raised my hand. The reflection stayed still. I lowered my hand. The reflection smiled. I stumbled back. The TV shut off. The house went dark. All the lights. At once. The power wasn't out. I could see the streetlights outside. Just my house. In complete darkness. Then came the knocking. Not from my bedroom. Not from the door. From inside the walls. Knock. 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 13 times. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed my phone. No signal. I tried to call my parents. Nothing. The knocking moved. Closer. Like something crawling inside the walls. Coming toward the living room. Coming toward me. I backed into the corner. Stop! I yelled. Silence. Then a voice came from right behind me. You didn't finish listening. I turned around. No one. But the recorder was sitting on the kitchen table. Playing. Story 13 again. You have to hear the end, my voice said. The lights flickered back on. The knocking stopped. Everything went quiet. I stared at the recorder. If I finished the story, would it stop? Or would it make things worse? The voice continued. He thought if he stopped listening, it would go away. I swallowed. But it only gets stronger. The recorder crackled. The final words of Story 13 began to play. And they were not words. They were coordinates. Numbers. Latitude and longitude. A location. In the woods outside my town. My heart pounded. Why would it give me a location? Was this part of the story? Or was it something else? The recorder stopped. Dead silence. Then my phone buzzed. Signal returned. One new text message. From an unknown number. It said, Go there. And attached was a photo. A picture of my house. Taken from outside. Right now. The curtains in the photo were open. And in the upstairs window, I saw someone standing in my bedroom. Watching me. The figure in my bedroom window did not move. It just stood there. Tall. Still. Watching. I ran outside without thinking. I didn't even grab a jacket. The cold night air hit my face, but I didn't care. I looked up at my bedroom window from the yard. There was nothing there. The window was dark. Empty. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You're close. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I slowly walked back into the house. The front door was still locked. The lights were on again. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I walked upstairs carefully. Each step creaked under my feet. My bedroom door was closed. I always leave it open. I reached for the handle. It was warm. Like someone had just been touching it. I pushed the door open. My room looked the same. The recorder sat on my desk. Waiting. I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. I spun around. No one was there. But the recorder turned on by itself. Static filled the room. Then my voice spoke. You came. I backed away slowly. You saw it. The voice continued. Now you understand. Understand what? I whispered. The voice did not answer me directly. Instead, it played something new. Footsteps. Walking through leaves. Wind blowing through trees. Then those coordinates again. The woods outside town. A place kids used to dare each other to visit. I had been there once when I was younger. There was an old radio tower deep inside the forest. Abandoned. Rusty. Broken. People said it was used for emergency broadcasts a long time ago. The recorder crackled again. The stories don't start in houses, my voice said. They start there. The woods. The tower. My breathing became heavy. You have to go back, the voice whispered. The recorder shut off. Silence. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Finish it. Then another message. A picture. This time it wasn't my house. It was the radio tower. Taken at night. And standing at the base of it was someone who looked exactly like me. Same jacket. Same hair. Looking straight at the camera. I felt sick. This wasn't just haunting me. It was copying me. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Jason. I knew they wouldn't believe me. The next evening, just before sunset, I made the worst decision of my life. I went to the woods. The path felt smaller than I remembered. The trees seemed taller. Darker. The wind made the branches whisper above me. Every snap of a twig made my heart jump. As I walked deeper, my phone lost signal again. No bars. No way to call for help. I finally saw it. The radio tower. It stood in a small clearing. Rust covered most of it. The fence around it was broken. The gate hung open. Like it was inviting me in. I stepped inside. The air felt heavy. Thick. There was a small control shed next to the tower. The door was slightly open. I didn't want to go in. But I knew I had to. I pushed it open slowly. Inside was darkness. Dust covered the floor. Old wires hung from the walls. And sitting in the center of the room was a table. On the table sat a single recorder. Labeled Horrormix Volume 113. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I stepped closer. The recorder turned on. No one touched it. My voice began to speak. This is the final part. I froze. You were never just listening, the voice said calmly. You were being recorded. A red light blinked in the corner of the room. A camera pointed at me. The recorder continued. Each listener becomes the next story. I backed away slowly. No, I whispered. Yes, the voice answered. The walls of the shed began to shake. The wind outside howled louder. The tower creaked as if it might fall. You are story 13. The door slammed shut behind me. The lights inside flickered on. Screens along the walls lit up. And on every screen, I saw myself. From different angles. Different nights. In my room. Sleeping. Sitting at my desk. Looking under my bed. The tally marks? The knocking. The reflection in the TV. It had all been recorded. For the next volume. Horrormix Volume 114. My breathing became fast and sharp. You can stop it, my voice said softly. How? I shouted. The recorder crackled. Take your place. The floor beneath the table slid open, revealing a narrow staircase going down into darkness. Cold air rushed up from below. I stared into it. Deep underground, I could hear something. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Waiting. The screens flickered again. And now they showed something new. A bedroom. A different house. A different boy. Sitting at his desk. Listening to a recorder. Volume 113. He looked scared. Just like I had. This is how it continues, my voice said. If you go down there, you replace what's waiting. And if I don't? I asked. The screens went black. Then they showed my house. My parents inside. The lights flickering. The knocking starting again. 13 times. They will hear it next, the voice whispered. Tears filled my eyes. This wasn't about me anymore. It never was. It was about keeping the stories moving. Keeping the fear alive. One listener at a time. The breathing from the staircase grew louder. Closer. Like something was climbing up. I stepped toward the stairs. The recorder's red light blinked faster. Once you go down, my voice said, you can never come back. I looked at the screens one last time. The other boy was pressing play. Story 13 was beginning. I swallowed hard. Then I stepped down into the darkness. The door above slammed shut. Everything went black. The breathing stopped. Silence. Far away, I heard the recorder click off. And somewhere, in a different house, a new listener heard a knock under their bed. 13 times. And this time, it wasn't just a story anymore.